It's a beautiful morning, and we are excited to be here. Of course, this is Rise and Shine coming to you live from Oyo, the very beautiful city of Akwa Ibom State, and this is Spectrum Television. Of course, we're broadcasting live on Start Times DTH Channel 421, and of course, that comes out free to air across. You can catch us also across social media platform, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. Just in case you've been missing off on all of our content, you can find it on our socials. Of course, we'll always encourage you to turn on the notification button, be part of our online community, share, like, comment, and of course, we'll be delighted to take your comment also in real time as we navigate the different issues that we'll be bringing to you this morning. My name is Francis Oyima Edit, and once again, thanks for joining us.
It's a very beautiful Wednesday morning. It's already midweek and December is journeying really fast. Today is the 6th of December, right? Yes. My name is Uyanik, and I am thankful to be alive, looking back every day to say thank you, God, for all that 2023 has been. I don't know how it's been for you, our very precious viewers on Rise and Shine. I mean, you have been here with us since the 1st of January through the 6th of December, and we are thankful that you are here to make our community a very strong and robust one. We can't say this thank you in any small way. But of course, this is Rise and Shine, and we're here to talk Nigeria, talk Africa, and other international issues as how they directly impact upon the Nigerian society. And a quick rundown on some of the things that we have on our table this morning. We see that with regards to promotion examination in the civil service, about 9,000 civil servants have failed that particular exam. Of course, that exam took place early on this week, and we see that over 9,000 civil servants have failed. Francis, I'm going to enjoy going into this, conversation later on. Please, if you're a civil servant that recently wrote this examination, would like for you to take advantage of our phone lines. Tell us what exactly happened. Was it the questions, or was it the timing, or is it just that this is new to the system? Well, still seeing issues around the IPPIS. Federal government returns 4,081 workers OK's payment. We also see here the issue on Vice President's residence. The presidency have fired Peter Obi over his comments. Well, there's so much more to look into these particular issues. We also see that court has ordered the INEC, I beg your pardon, and given them 90 days to produce everyone who was a part of registering underage persons in the last cycle of election. Issues arising everywhere out of Nigeria, of course. We've seen the army chief apologize, saying Kaduna bombing was regrettable. Very sad story there that we have on our hands. That toll hits 120 villagers, alleged military bombed twice. Serious issues. Still on the rundown for us today, we see that PDP says cabal running a corridor loose government and stealing phones. Serious issues still coming out of Ondo State. These and more are some of the conversations we have for you on Rise and Shine this morning. You would want to buckle your seatbelt, come back in, and let's have this conversation. Would really, really love to hear your thoughts, especially on this particular issue, Francis, that we've been talking about all week long. The matter of Nyesom Wike wanting to spend 15 billion naira on a residence for the Vice President of the Federation, and some other issues. This Kaduna State bombing of Tudumbirin village. What exactly is happening? Can someone call us from Kaduna State and let us know what the feeling is like in the atmosphere? A really, really, really sad story it is that we are hearing. Very unfortunate incident. Of course, Ondo State too is still on our front burner. If you are a citizen of Ondo State, would like to know what exactly is happening. Are we beginning to have a smooth sail, or there's really these brewing leadership crisis? These and more are the conversation we would have this morning, and we can't wait just for you to join us. This is where we'll head on straight now to our leadership flash stories.
Rise and shine. Rise and shine.
Of course, we're starting off with the very first flash story this morning. We see that no fewer than 9,000 civil servants who sat for the 2022 Federal Civil Service Promotion Examinations failed. Now, according to the release by the Federal Government Service Commission, we see 13,000 civil servants sat for the 2022 examination, which held at about 69 computer-based test centers. The candidates were drawn from the core civil service, the Nigerian police, and other paramilitary and specialized agencies. Of course, according to the report, the civil servant dated 30th of November, we see that the aforementioned numbers failed the examination. Of course, the letter was signed by the Director of Promotion, Sani Bello, and addressed to the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. In a list attached to the letter, it was noted that only 3,851 civil servants out of the over 13,000 civil servants who sat for the promotion examination passed. Of course, the list also stated that 139 officers were for instance promoted from the post of Assistant Chief Administrative Officer to Chief Administrative Officers. A total of 191 were promoted to the post of Assistant Chief Administrative Officer. From the role of Principal Administrative Officer, 313 civil servants were promoted from the role of Senior Administrative Officers to Principal Administrative Officers, while 191 were promoted to Senior Administrative Officer from the role of Administrative Officer 1, amongst others. Of course, the letter was acknowledged by the Permanent Secretary, Career Management Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation, Marcos Ogumbiyi. Of course, civil servants were also informed that the 2023 promotion exercise for civil servants in the poll of the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, of course, will also hold December 11, 2023 to December 16, 2023. So you're looking at the first batch. A huge number of people have failed. Another one is slated for December 11 through December 16, 2023. Now, I would always say this. It is one thing for you to conduct election for civil servant. It is another thing for you to use computer-based tests. Now, if the present generation taking computer-based examinations through UTME are having difficulties, how much more the elderly people? I would want to, not like holding forth for the civil servant now, but in their defense, how many of the civil servants are computer literate? How many of them are proficient in the use of computer, navigating the tools on the computer system? So when you're putting exams on the computer and you're coming out to say this huge number of people fail, did they fail because they could not navigate through the system, or they fail because they are just too block-headed to understand the questions that were given? And you cannot tell Nigerians that this huge number of civil servants failed the examination just because they could not answer the questions. It's a whole lot of issues. I mean, yes, the world is changing. It's all about technology. It's all about computer now. But before you get to prioritize computer, how about looking into the minds of the people that you're working with, you are serving, looking into the age bracket, looking into the certification? How many of them, how many civil service offices do we have computers? To even say that those people are having access to computer on a daily basis. And so there should be no excuse on that part. So I think a lot needs to be done. Nigerians would argue, and this could also be another means of, robbing Nigerian civil servants who have paid their dues, who deserve that, promotion from being promoted. So some persons would say this is politics, and in order to make it look very beautiful, the computer-based test is being given. So you would have enough excuse, and the federal government will have enough valid excuses and evidences on their side to say, oh, of course you saw we promoted XYZ numbers who passed. These ones cannot be promoted, and so they cannot move to higher ranking, higher earning.
It's a serious issue, and that's the baseline of this conversation this morning. Putting out an examination, promotional examination for civil servants in the country and making it computer-based examination. First of all, did we try out a mock to find out if these people could navigate the use of these computer systems? On an average, most of them have been working in this system upwards of 20, 25, 30 years. Which of their departments actually have computers in them? How many of them go to a normal secretariat, Francis? The list person works paper to paper. You move paper and move files around. They are not conversant with the use of computers. And then you take a very important examination, which is promotional. Some of them have been in the system for so long and have not been promoted past the number of years that they ought to have been promoted. The one time that the civil service decides that it's time to do mass promotions, you now take the exams and put it, make it computer based. I think this is first of all an error from the civil service at the federal level. Because just like Francis said, there is no way you would tell us that over 9,000 people in the first tranche of that examination failed. Yes, it might look like, because what exactly are you asking? You're not going to ask questions that are necessarily out of their jurisdiction or field of service. It's either going to be current affairs plus what they are, the work roles that they perform for the civil service. So how would you say that over 9,000 people do not know what to do? And out of these 9,000 people, do not forget that there is an age, there is an age bracket that is, communication and current affairs savvy. People know what is happening around them. So you can't say that over 9,000 of them did not pass the examination. Something has to be wrong in the way the examination was put together. So we go beyond that conversation and ask the civil service organization, those in charge of the agencies, please rethink how the examination was set in the first place. We have another tranche that is coming from the 11th of December. We need to review what exactly happened. Now, when you set a computer-based examination, it's usually timed. An average person, at that age, which might not have sat for an exam in several years, is going to take longer than necessary on a question. Yet the questions are timed. You're going to find out. Now, if we analyze the indices around this mass failure. 1, too little questions were answered. People, the time finished before most people. Some people do not even know how to navigate these computers. That's a major problem. I don't think that this is majorly a problem of the civil servant. It is majorly a problem of the civil service, and this should really be looked into because we are looking at the fact that by 2024 March, April, now we are going to be beginning to have conversations around a new minimum wage. Now this promotional examination is meant to affect how much these persons are going to be earning from next year. Let the system not be the reason why people are not earning what they ought to be earning versus the years that they've put in versus the work that they've put in. So this really needs to be reviewed. And another question is, these over 9,000 people that have failed, the second tranche of examination coming up, is there going to be supplementary for them to be able to attempt again before we now say, oh, there's nothing we can do until the next cycle of promotion examination? I think this one is very important. But still looking at our flash news this morning, we move to the very next issue. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party has been on the neck of the federal government and the presidency, cut it across different issues happening, whether it's COP28, the fact that Nyesom Wike has decided that 15 billion naira is what he wants to spend on, building what would we call it, a worthy resident for the Vice President Kashim Shettima. Now, the presidency has lashed out at the Labour Party candidate in this year's presidential election, Mr. Peter Obi, for attempting to whip up public sentiment against the Bola Tinubu administration over the budgetary provision for the completion of the Vice President's residence. Now, let's pause. I usually like to have conversations around English. So if you say that 15 billion is allocated for the completion, we're not even talking about building the residence from start to finish. We are saying to complete a building that has already been built. Nyesom Wike and the presidency say they want to spend 15 billion. And now you're saying that Peter Obi is trying to whip up, sentiments on the street and on the social media that, the presidency is in the wrong. One question that our guest asked yesterday, is Kashim Shettima the first vice president that we've had in this country? Where have all the other vice presidents been living before now? Remember that when the Tinubu administration was going to be sworn in, their wives were given a tour of the presidency and the lounge. What exactly did they give them a tour around? What were they looking at? Was it green grass? They made news all around it. The wife of the president, all of them, they went there, looked at all these facilities. What exactly were they looking at? And why was it okay at the time? And now Nyesom Wike wants to spend 15 billion naira. So that's the clause. They want to spend 15 billion to complete a facility for the vice president. But yet, 8,500 that they said they were going to share as palliatives to Nigerians, half of the citizens in this country don't know where that money went to. So let's head on. Now, the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, has said in their 2024 budget proposal, they earmarked 15.5 billion for the renovation of the Vice President's official residence, a development that Peter Obi, in a couple of tweets on his verified X handle, described as shocking and disheartening. Now, reacting to Obi's comments in a statement yesterday in Abuja, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity in the Office of the Vice President, Stanley Nwokocha, the presidency, said the quest to give the Vice President a befitting residence started in 2007. So since 2007, they're trying to make us understand that several administrations have been voting monies to renovate that particular facility. Now, they said the target for the residency of the Vice President of the Senate and Speaker of the House of Representatives is also among this initiative. So now the conversation is, shifting from the Vice President to the fact that they also want to provide a residence for the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives. They have a similar target. Now, you're saying that we have 15 billion target for the President of the Senate, for the President of the House of Representatives, and that of who did us in this country? Because these are not things that we should be treating with kids' gloves. We've seen civil society organizations really try their best. Serap has called the President of the Senate and asked him to probe this particular move by the FCT minister. Now, if you also find out now that news is giving us the fact that they also intend to make this particular residence available for the President of the Senate and that of the House of Representatives, do we really think that Godswill Akpabio, the Senate President, is going to want to probe Nyesom Wike? These are just pipelines to waste taxpayers' monies and the monies that they are borrowing in the names of Nigerians.
It's a sorry situation. It's disheartening. It is mind-boggling. It's worth crying. It is worth having a panic attack over. It is what even some Nigerians contemplating, God forbid, suicide. Because when you look into the different things that is coming from the National Assembly, from the presidency, you can't help but wonder what exactly is happening to us. How do these group of persons think? From which side of the bed do they wake up from every morning? And how do they even sleep, knowing that the generality of Nigerians, the multitude of Nigerians, regardless of the wealth of the nation that is abundant, are living in abject poverty? How do they sleep and wake up knowing that while they are feeding off from the public's wealth, while their dog is even feeding better than the hundreds of Nigerians, the Nigerian people are still hungry and looking for the smallest thing to just get by each day? And yet somebody would sit in the confines of the AC room, the AC office, the AC car, bulletproof car that is provided for by the collective wealth of the people, and still not think of how to better the life of the generality of the people, but to better their own life. Now you would ask, in all the countries of the world, how many countries devote such huge amount of money to building edifices for their president or vice president or the members of the National Assembly? The UK, you see the Downing Street, it's been there for generations. It's been there for the longest time. How many times do we see money being voted for renovation? How many times do we see money being voted for upgrade, for furnitures, for silverwares, for kitchen refurbishment? These are all things that makes you wonder, the crop of politicians from Nigeria, are we cut from a different coat? Like, are we not humans? Are they not humans? Did they not go to school? I mean, it is even more shocking to know that these are persons who have traveled the world. These are people who have communicated with other leaders across the world. These are persons who are consistently also still traveling the world, still having engagement with other leaders across the world. So if for instance, you came up from a very rude background, a very crude background, that you didn't know how to conduct yourself, how to prioritize the welfare of the people, by virtue of association, by virtue of communication, by virtue of the different conferences and the different leaders that you have, have interactions with, one way or the other, wisdom should be able to rub off on you. So when Nigerians sit down and look into what is happening, it will make a whole lot of people say, oh, there is no hope. And then it further raises a whole lot of questions on the touted renewed hope agenda of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, what exactly is the renewed hope renewing for Nigerians? Are we renewing a whole lot of more suffering? I came across a video yesterday, and we always would joke about it that Nigerians, make a whole lot of, fun and jokes out of very serious situation. Maybe that's how God allows us and helps us to cope. Because otherwise, maybe literally all of us will have mental, issues as a result of the situation happening in this country. And it simply was, what has the President Ahmed Bola Tinubu's administration done for Nigerians? One thing we can take for a fact is that the federal government had agreed. The subsidy palliative that was meant for the Nigerian people didn't get to nobody. Just last week, we had government officials who were arrested for diverting the palliative that was meant for the people. And then you ask, to what end? Are we sure that that person that has been arrested is going to face the full wrath of the law? How many of those who have been arrested in the past have we seen any further trial being made as a result of that? So we vote out money, paltry sum of money. We vote out, we get to buy things for Nigerians, and these things never get to Nigerians. We're talking about 25,000 air conditional transfer a year. And so far, a lot of questions are being asked. I am yet to come across one Nigerian who would call in and say, oh, I have gotten the money from the federal government, conditional cash transfer. I am yet to find one individual who says, oh, we have even done documentations. We are awaiting the alert to come into our phones. And remember, even when those incidents kickstarted, I said, you cannot. It is now that we are looking at how many thousands of Nigerians trying to verify their NIN and link their NIN to their BVN. So when you give criteria that multitude of people are not going to be able to meet it, and especially the people who are classified as the poorest of the poor, is literally a very big, not even a pipeline. Maybe you should call it an ocean surge to drill the money of the country into the hands of a few individuals. So how did we get here? How are we going to be able to advance past this page? Every year, every budgetary allocation, you will always hear, Nigeria is borrowing, Nigeria is borrowing, Nigeria is borrowing. And then the federal government will try to make excuses for why the borrowing has to be done. But when you look back, you cannot see very tangible, time-tested project that you can say, oh, the federal government borrowed $500 million US. This is the project that it was channeled to. And in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, this project is going to generate XYZ revenue back to the government of the day. And then, of course, as a result of that, we have something that will generate money for us to continue paying back the loans that was received. And Nigerians will always ask, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, the Senate President Godswill Akpabio, Tajuddin Abbas, all the people who have been saddled with the different portfolios as ministers or appointees of this administration. If Nigeria were your personal business, will you run it the way you are running the country?
It's a big issue, especially now that we see that the presidency is coming out also and trying to play on the intelligence of Nigerians, trying to explain away. Yes, let's go back to the very beginning. The presidency is alleging, of course, that this project did not start out as an initiative of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration. No problem. It started out in the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan administration. Please, can we go back into the books and go back to our mathematics and find out what the GDP of the country under the administration of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan was? What was the IGR of the country? What was the debt ratio of the country as at the time that Goodluck Ebele Jonathan was the president of the country? As at that time, was it wasteful still? Yes, it was. Is it worse wasteful now? Yes. You can't tell us that it is because this initiative was signed and approved for in the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, and you come when the country is nearly broke and tell us that it's still okay because it was okayed in the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan administration. It is a project that still shouldn't see the light of day under this administration. Over 130 million Nigerians living below poverty line. Let's go back a little bit. Since May 29, we've had several people go below that number because several businesses have had to shut down. The environment of carrying out businesses in Nigeria is not conducive. Should we talk about the number of international organizations that have quietly packed up their property and left this country? They're no longer doing business. Do you want to do the number of people that have left businesses? There is no explanation for what the presidency is trying to do. Whether Peter Obi or not has a thing against the federal government, that's on the one hand. But Nigerians can clearly see that we have a set of very wasteful people manning our economy. You cannot keep borrowing money and seeing that we are doing wrong investments and you're trying to explain to... Now, the presidency is asking that more cerebral Nigerians should come and help them cross-check the issue on the table. These cerebral Nigerians are calling you out and saying that this is not okay. It might have been okay in the Goodluck Ebelejon. Goodluck's administration had money to waste around. Not that it was a good idea because it further pushed us to the place that we are, but those guys had money. Everybody, money was flowing from the top to the bottom. People could do businesses. We had international organizations being able to thrive within the country. You can't talk of a country that everyone is folding up arms and leaving the country. Under hush hustle, nobody's talking about it. They're just leaving the country. Hundreds of companies. Look at the oil and gas sector. How long ago have they been trying to sell off ExxonMobil for other people to come and take up business? It's unrealistic as a nation. Now the problem is it is flowing from the presidency down to the local government area. The big question is, how are we going to get ourselves rid of the condition that we have found ourselves in? I remember someone sharing a couple of days back, you know, when we get resource persons to come and talk about some of these issues, a resource person literally says, like, stop calling me. I'm not interested in talking about Nigerians' issues again because it's same old issues. No one is listening. No one is bringing to bear any form of change. We're talking 15 billion. 15 billion also out of the budgetary allocation for 2024 is earmarked for the trips of the president and the vice president. 15 billion. How many billions of naira, Francis, has actually been budgeted to a sector in this country that will affect the common man in the village? How much? We talked about upending money in the health sector, upending the budget for the education sector. How much of it was upended? But yet we are putting out monies to waste, and the presidency is coming to come and explain their folly to the nation, calling out Peter Obi. Peter Obi is the least of Nigeria's problems as of now. The election seasons have ended. Nobody's clamoring around whether it should be the president or not. We need to see what will work in the country. It can't be a debate of what's between Peter Obi and the presidency at this time. What is not working is not working. And we don't even know who to trust, because to say that Serap is saying that they are going to take the National Assembly to court, probably take the presidency to court over this, which part of the judiciary is going to stand on the side of Nigerians to make sure that these kinds of wastes do not continue?
Well, it's a very serious issue at this point, yeah, and it's more alarming and more frustrating to say that it's coming at a point and from a man who has, you know, experienced and enjoyed wealth in abundance from his time as the governor of Lagos State, now to becoming the president. And it's even more disheartening to see that this man came on board with the touted renewed hope agenda, and then of course promising Nigerians that is not coming, according to his wife, that is not coming to use the wealth of the nation. He's coming to give to Nigeria. This has been a long dream, according to President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. In his words, Emilokon, it's my turn. So Nigerians would ask at this point, what exactly was it your turn to do? Was it your turn to further plunge Nigeria into hardship? You know, just referencing the video skit I saw, and the skit maker started with asking President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, so in your few months in office, what have you done to Nigeria? And the president's, the mimicking of the president was it, I've plunged the country into hardship and hunger and starvation. So look into the lives of the people. Look back before the May 29th announcement of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. How were Nigerians faring? A lot better. May not have been a bed of roses for everybody in this country, but a good number of Nigerians were able to get by every day because you could buy fuel at a smaller price and then be able to run your business. Now, MSMEs in the country across Nigeria who are significant contributors to the GDP of this country, who have been touted as the much, vibrant agents of change and transformation, are folding up in their numbers on a daily basis. You will not see those statistics because we don't even have the statistics in this country. Why is that happening? Because people can no longer afford fuel. You do not have public power to run your business. The fuel that you could turn to as an alternative source of energy is at the highest price at this point in time. Those who are using diesel is even worse. We have yet to see the federal government who said they were going to subsidize or remove the tax for diesel to sell at a cheaper price. Still today, diesel is still at what it used to be. So how are you changing the narrative? Every day the federal government wakes up and tells Nigerians, oh, you guys have to be patient. Change, positive change always will come with hardship. Nigerians can be patient. Nigerians can understand. But when that patience and understanding is coming with visible evidence that you do not care about the Nigerian people, you do not care about the welfare of the Nigerian people, nor the businesses operating in Nigeria, it creates a chaotic situation. It makes the people understand and feel left out. It makes the people to be angry. And the more angry the people get, the worse the situation is going to become. It was one of our guests who said, we don't want to get to the point where the NSAS protest that happened in 2020 happens again. Because if we recall, it was a peaceful protest. And the tragedy that happened, which of course the federal government of this country, the Lagos state government is yet to account for the incident that happened in that, on that fateful day. It is not going to be business as usual. The Kano State incident is already giving us a test. It might get worse than that because Nigerians are tired of being pushed to the wall. And when we go back to the different, coup d'etat that has happened across Africa, it goes back to the situation like this. When the people see we have abundance of natural resources, we are blessed, and the resources of our land should have been able to ensure that a greater number of the people are living in good conditions. But they turn around and see that a collective few that you can count at the tips of your fingers are the ones benefiting from the wealth, while the generality of the people continue to live in abject poverty. And it seems that this group of persons who have the opportunity to be there are not in any way thinking of how to lift every other person out of the situation, but rather how to further oppress the next person. It creates a serious crisis that nobody knows. Nobody is praying for it. And we will never want to pray for any form of coup d'etat in Nigeria or military takeover. It doesn't help anybody. But the Nigerian politicians, the people who have been given the mandate of Nigerians to lead, need to rise up to that responsibility. And however you want to describe it, Uyai, Nigerians will say, okay, fine, fair enough. We should have a befitting of house for the vice president, for the president, the Senate president, the house of the rep speaker. Yes, no problem. But shouldn't that come when we have enough wealth and resources?
Why are we extending to build houses for the Senate president and the leader of the house? What happened to their houses, the mansion that they live? See, we should juxtapose what we're doing. If we say that we are borrowing democracy from the Western world, if we think that the United States is our standard, let's ask questions. In the United States, do they build, after the White House and where the vice president stays, do they have a special house for the head of parliament? Is that what they do? In other countries of the world, go to the United Kingdom, we have members of parliament driving the buses to their workplace, not having an entourage of 10 vehicles going with them. They will come out. How much did they vote in this country last couple of months for vehicles? Was it not over 130 million naira per vehicle? We are being unrealistic as a people. We are being unrealistic as a nation. And this explanation by the presidency, it doesn't suffice. You're trying to tell us that, calling up the numbers from when Peter Obi was the former Anambra State governor, we have said Peter Obi is the least of our problems. Do right by Nigerians. If you're saying that the issue is that, yes, we have a lot of abandoned projects at the federal level, you have to choose the project that would directly be beneficial to Nigerians at this time. The residence of the vice president to the tune of 15 billion naira right now is a waste. Take 15 billion naira, share it amongst owners of SMEs in this country, MSMEs. It will go a long way. They were talking about sharing money for MSMEs the other day, and they're talking about giving 50,000 naira. Even if a person that wants to start a restaurant business, that takes you for only a bag of rice. What happens to all the other things you have to buy? It doesn't make sense. These people are not interacting with the reality of things in the country, and the presidency is in no right for this kind of argument at this time. But we'll just allow it to rest though. Nigerians have to stand up and speak for themselves. They have to find a way to tender their grievances to the leadership of this country, because this is not working. Well, underage voters, that's the next issue. Because it's just like from one heartache to the other. Literally, you need to drink water and calm down. not working.
Well, it's a sorry situation. Unfortunately, it's a very sorry situation that sometimes you just sit back and then you would ask literally, why was I born in Nigeria? You know, that
no working systems, no willing leaders. We're meant to have servant leaders, but everybody's just laden with greed, how much they can take for themselves, stealing to the tunes of billions of naira, monies you cannot spend in your entire lifetime.
Well, money meant for generations, and I've forgotten the singer that sang. I mean, okay, I think it's Kiss Daniel Neal's song. I mean, if you have 31 houses, you only sleep in one, and inside of that one house, you just sleep in one bed, one room. What happens to the rest? If you die today, they sell it off. And then, of course, you know, God has a way of doing things, and nature has a way of dealing with people who do not think that God can do anything or that anything can happen to them because they are the powerful, they are the mighty, they are the influential, they are the elite of the elite, and they control the wealth of the nation, they control the resources of the nation. Don't take for granted the fact that you've been given that opportunity to lead, because it is God. However you say it, Allah, God, somehow, the people made you to stay where you are. And when you take the people for granted, God help you. When the people decide to revolt, we've seen it happen in history, and nobody's going to be able to save, you know, the few people who are in power. But we are not going to revolt as Nigerians because we are a peace-loving people. And all we just want as Nigerians is for the leaders to sit up and rise up to their responsibility. And what is that responsibility? The responsibility of giving to Nigerians the true dividends of democracy. That is the need of Nigerians at this point. But of course, the issue of underage voter has been a serious conversation that, you know, everybody had been talking about that. And of course, we see that the Federal High Court in Abuja has ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission to fish out its officials involved with the registration of underage persons during the continuous voters registration exercise across the country. Of course, the judge gave INEC 90 days to identify the culpable officials and hand them over to law enforcement agencies. Justice Obiora Egwatu held that the officers committed a criminal offense by breaching the Electoral Act. Where there is a failure to comply with the provisions of the Electoral Act by any officer appointed for the purpose of the Act, such an officer has a commitment and has committed an offense, the judge held. Now, it issued the mandatory order of the court compelling and directing the defendant, in this time being INEC, within a period of 1 month or such order period, which shall not exceed 90 days from the date of the judgment, to identify, produce, and hand over its officials that were involved in the registration of underage voters in each polling unit across the Federation for investigation and prosecution by the appropriate law enforcement agency. Now, that's according to Justice Egwatu. Of course, this is a case that was decided upon as a result of the case that was filed by Reverend Mike Agbon against INEC. Now, Uyai, underage. Prior to the election, we saw picture footages and evidences of, you know, children well above just within 2 years, a year plus, 3 years, 5 years, registering as voters in Nigeria. And when those picture footages surfaced, it was more literally like a joking conversation. But later on in the course of this court case, the INEC official admitted, yes, they were underage voters. Festus Okoye admitted they were underage voters registered. So INEC sat down, knew that its officials had registered underage voters. They allowed the election to run with those underage voters voting. And today, the elections has been over and done with. Nothing had been done until now that the court has decided. Now, there are a lot of, you know, questions that are running through the minds of Nigerians. This is not the first time we've talked about underage voters. If you have to go down back to the era of President Goodluck Jonathan, former President Goodluck Jonathan, just before President Muhammadu Buhari took over, the election in 2015 that brought in President Muhammadu Buhari, the registration exercise of voters, that was like the highest point in Nigeria, where we saw underage voters registration in the northern part of this country. And there were even speculations that we also had persons who were non-Nigerians registering, and even an allegation that was bizarre to even conceptualize, that animals were also being, you know, registered as voters. No, yes, it was a bizarre allegations coming from the north. But then, how do people who have been employed under the federal government's covers would sit down and you see a child who is barely 2 years old, he registered that child as a voter. And then when INEC
so that they will tell us that the north has the numbers.
Has the numbers. So, and when that child is coming to vote, and then how did we even get to this point? And then the next question Nigerians will ask, what's the guarantee that Professor Mahmood Yakubu, the INEC chairman, and the leadership of INEC will be able to fish out those people? Because by the laws of INEC, by the actions of those individuals, that already breached the electoral act.
And we should inadvertently affect the results of elections coming out from
exactly.
these areas. And
then, of course, it should have been meted with immediate punitive measures in line with the provisions of the law. But we didn't see that happen. So we had to have INEC wait, leisure around, enjoy, and then, of course, it took the decision of the court. It took a Nigerian taking the decision to go to court before the court now ruled. So now that the court has ruled, people who knew for a fact that it was illegal, it was wrong, it was criminal, it was unconstitutional to have underage registered as voters in this country, they saw it happening under their watch and nothing happened. Will they now be able to act? And in the event that they act, are we going to see some innocent people being used as scapegoat to cover the movement of the high and mighty? Because at the end of this, if Professor Mahmood Yakubu is even able to stand up, or the leadership of INEC under his watch are able to bring out a few names of their electoral officers, it is going to be just some persons who are offered a sacrificial lamb. While the real minders of the system, the real brains behind it, are lavishing, enjoying the wealth of whatever had come as a result of what they did.
Well, we see that, this case is not just premised on allegations or the fact that, someone had submitted these filed this suit against the federal government and INEC at this time. We also see that there are infractions that were admitted by the defendant, who is Festus Okoye, the former publicity person for INEC. We saw that Festus Okoye in exhibits B1 and B2 earlier reproduced in that judgment, had stated that in that exhibit, in addition, the commission could not rule out infractions by its registration officials in allowing these ineligible persons into the register in the first place. Now, he had promised that each confirmed case of infraction will be thoroughly investigated and culpable officials will be disciplined. So this is actually something that was admitted by the defendant in Exhibit B1, that several double, multiple, and ineligible registrants had also been detected and invalidated. Of course, these included entries that failed to meet the commission's business rules. Now, of course, at the time, Festus Okoye had said that the commission takes responsibility seriously because of a credible register is at the heart of electoral integrity. So it's not like these are unfounded allegations. These are things that Festus Okoye had actually given a voice to, saying that the commission was taking responsibility because, of course, the eligibility and the credibility of the voter registration was going to impact upon the results of the elections that we had. At the end of the day, if we look at all of these indices that keep on popping up, it means in the overall, the entire cycle of the February 25 election is really, really questionable. But for how long are we going to continue to ask these questions and actually come up with an answer that will be good? Now, the court is giving INEC 90 days to produce the officials that were involved in these kinds of activities. Like Francis rightly said, it goes right from the top to the bottom, the top right to the bottom right to the top. Who is going to call out the names of the people that really, really, closed their eyes and allowed these kinds of activities to happen? 90 days. We are definitely going to be on the lookout to see where this particular verdict by the court is going to end. Is it going to be another case that is going to be in court and become hush-hush after this verdict has been given? 90 days it is to INEC. Let's see whose neck is going to get on the table. Like Francis rightly said, it might just be, people on the lower rank and cadre of INEC who will take the fall for the responsibility of bigger bulls in the system. But let's move on. Away from that particular story, the very sad incident that happened in Kaduna State, in Kudum Birin village in in Kaduna State. Now, of course, we saw that during a Muslim festival event held by one of our religious sects in Nigeria, happening in that particular village. There was, a very tragic incident where we had a now affirmed and responsibility taking activity by the army, where they said it was actually their aircraft performing routine activity in the north to take out bandits and also terrorists in some of their hideouts. But it happened to be that it was civilians who were actually gathering, and this sad incident happened. Now we see the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tariq Lakwaja, describing the deadly airstrike that killed several number of persons in this particular village and injuring several others in Kaduna State as regrettable. Now, the Army Chief himself visited the site of the mishap and that has thrown the nation into a sorrowful mood. Of course, apologies have been tendered on behalf of the Nigerian Army to the community, the government, and the people of Kaduna State. Now, Lakwaja, who visited the victims 2 days after the accidental strike in the Igabi area of the northwest state, promised to guard against such an occurrence in the conduct of military operations. Now, with regards to his assessment of the unfortunate incident on Sunday, December the 3rd, it is said that the issue was grave and regrettable. Now, they promise to do everything possible to prevent such an occurrence from happening again. Serious questions. A lot of things will be brought to bear at this time. Of course, we'll try to bring our security expert to give us his infractions with regards to this particular issue. But let's do a number and some of the things we've talked about with regards to the military. Oftentimes, we talk about having bad eggs within the system. We also talk about the fact that wrong information will be part of why we are having these kinds of experiences, because it will be an intel that the Nigerian Army received around that particular area that probably had highlighted that particular activity or that particular community as as a hideout. But let's give this particular sound bites now, audio, and then we'll get back to the conversation.
Chief of Army Staff en route to Tudumbiri village, where the Nigerian Army drone killed villagers observing Malum Festival.
The Nigerian Army as a responsible organ of government and organization is willing to support law-abiding citizens. More so that the unfortunate incident that happened on Sunday occurred as a result of error on the part of Nigerian Army personnel. Drone observed the movement of people suspected to be bandits, and having trailed them for some time, a decision was taken to conduct a strike based on the observation of some tactics usually employed by bandits. Unfortunately, the reports we got thereafter revealed that it was innocent civilians that the drone conducted a strike. The Nigerian Army as a responsible organ of government and organization is willing to.
Of course, we are seeing the Nigerian Army take responsibility for this, but the death toll in Kaduna State has actually risen to over 100 at this time with regards to this particular issue, and it's not helping. It's a really sad situation that we have in the country. But before we went to that particular audio, I was talking about some of the inferences that might have led to this particular incident in Kaduna State. First of all, the fact that of course, the federal government has promised to lead an investigation into what exactly happened. But Francis, you know that we'll be looking at mixed information, one, on the table. Number two, the fact that, you know how we've always asked with regards to security issues in the country, who is informing the bad eggs that the military is coming or a security agency is trying to do something, So there are bad eggs within the system that are communicating between the Nigerian Army and, these kinds of bandits. But this is primarily an issue issue of wrong information. When we also use community members as informants, to the Nigerian military and the systems. Remember right well that when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came in to his administration at the beginning, his conversation around the security architecture, he had mentioned that let all the security agencies come into a uniform agreement and share information so that they can address security related issues, with a streamlined approach. Not that the army is trying to show themselves greater than the Nigerian police and vice versa. So he sought for a platform where unified information systems will be put in place to aid security in the country. This will primarily be an issue of wrong information upon the results of the investigation that will be brought about. But then, in all that this is, it can bring back the lives of the over 110 people that have been said to have lost their lives so far on the head counts delivered at these very sad events in Kaduna State.
Well, of course, it's a whole lot of questions to be asked. It raises a whole lot of concerns. How does military, the Nigerian military, a highly disciplined organization like that will conduct a bombing on a village without proper planning and strategizing? And of course, it also raised the question. There have been allegations of this possibly being an accident. Now, how is it possible for such an accident to happen? What were the issues that led to the accident? Was it wrong coordinates given to the pilot of the aircraft? Was it a matter of misplaced location? Was it a matter of miscalculation on the part of the pilots who were in charge of the aircraft? So a lot of concerns, a lot of issues are being raised at this point. But one thing Nigerians would first and foremost appreciate is the fact that the military has taken responsibility of it. Remember, as a 2 days back, they had denied, the Nigerian army was saying, oh, they're not the only one who conduct...
no, that was the Nigerian Air Force.
Air Force, rather.
Because it was first an allegation against the Nigerian Air Force. Yeah.
So they were saying they're not the only one. But of course, the Nigerian Air Force, the Nigerian Army, all of them work in sync, as far as security is concerned. So it's an interesting thing. But of course, seeing the Nigerian army coming out to take responsibility also raises a different question. Why didn't they take responsibility immediately after the incident happened? I mean, it took the Nigerian Air Force to first and foremost distance itself before the Nigerian Army leadership came to claim responsibility for the incident. The federal government, the president has reacted, directed an investigation and all of that, other NAMA and other relief agencies of government to ensure that the people are well taken care of. I mean, literally just seeing the pictures and footages coming from the hospital will break your heart. But we do hope that these investigations are not just paper investigations, but investigations that are thorough and will be able to forestall further occurrences, because that's the aim. Yes, we cannot rule out the fact that equipment failures can happen. I mean, if it happens in other countries of the world, it can literally happen in Nigeria. But then when it does happen and it's a tragedy, we should be able to look into the cause of those things and then be a lot more intentional in taking care of our equipment so that we don't get to have a recurrence of these incidents. It's a sad thing just watching women and men say all of a sudden, we've been left without fathers, we've been made widows and widowers, and of course orphans for some people. It's a very serious concern. And our heart goes out to the people of Kaduna State who have been affected the most with this incident.
Well, it will go without saying that airstrikes have not been without controversy over the last couple of years. Even in 2023, there's been several airstrikes that did not end well, whether it's for the Nigerian Air Force or the Nigerian Army. We see that early in 2023, the Nigerian Air Force actually did take responsibility over a fatal airstrike in Kwatiri, a Nasarawa State village, where we saw that at least 39 persons were killed and 6 others injured in the airstrike that occurred on the 24th of January. We also saw backdated all the way to 2021. We saw about 20 soldiers on ground allegedly slain in Mainok, Borno State, when a NAF fighter jet responding to attacks on a military camp by Boko Haram insurgents bombed the military camp based on a wrong coordinate. So we also see that even with these kinds of things, we have issues of wrong coordinates, we have issues of wrong information and all of those kinds of things. These things happen every now and then, but just like Francis said, we need to make sure that we check out and make sure that these are not things that keep reoccurring in the system to forestall all of these kinds of activities. Of course, Governor Uba Sani, the governor of Kaduna State, has also ordered a full investigation into Sunday's incident. Now he has tried to reassure the citizens of Kaduna State that the security and protection of its citizens will be prioritized in the sustained fight against terrorists and bandits and other criminal elements. We know that the federal government and the security agencies in Nigeria are trying their best sure that the north of this country, whether it's northwest, northeast, north central, becomes uninhabitable for bandits and Boko Haram insurgents and all the likes. They are trying their best, but we need to make sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's to make sure that it is not at the expense of innocent lives. Very, very regrettable story that we have here. We do hope that some kind of peace and repose comes for the souls of those lost, and families that have lost their family members will be deeply comforted. I read an article where we saw about a family saying they lost about 37 to 39 members of that immediate extended family. So it's such a sad situation now in this particular local government area in Kaduna State, and indeed entirely for the people, the entire people of Kaduna State. Our heart goes out to you, Spectrum Television. Our heart goes out, from the Akwa Ibom State government, and we do hope that peace returns to the state. And we also hope that the Nigerian military and the federal government does something relevant enough to make sure that this does not skyrocket into any kind of crisis. But this is where we're going to let the stories to rest. We'll head on to the newspaper desk where Mary Joseph is on standby. When we return, there's a lot more conversations we still need to look into of matters arising out of the country. So to stay with us.
Christmas season is here again. Are you aware that making your business or products visible on a television space gives your brand a wider visibility and patronage? In the spirit of the season, Spectrum Television is offering a whopping 25% discount on all the services. Advertise your products and services while this offer lasts from 1st December 2023 to January 31st, 2024. We are a television with a passion to take your business and services on a satisfactory lane. You do not want to miss this opportunity. For more inquiries, visit our city office at number 2 Taft Plaza Close off Akaitinen Road, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, or call the following numbers on your screen. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon. For premium broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news from the world, watch Spectrum TV on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733. Visit our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Every day marks a day of significance.
That in view of the apology tendered by this former minister who had earlier been cleared by this August Assembly,
as we face critical issues, developments and events which shape our social and political landscape here in Nigeria and beyond. Political Spectrum is a program specially designed to help make sense of all the moving parts of developments and occurrences in our nation's polity and political economy.
There is nothing wrong with Nigeria, but there's everything wrong.
The educational history of public figures holds significance beyond mere biographical details.
From executive, legislative and judicial developments at national and subnational levels to international diplomacy and relations.
Join us for exclusive interviews with key political figures, expert opinions, analysts, thought-provoking conversations for and against, shedding light on the major issues that matter. We will always keep you updated on the most factual, smartest and unbiased reportage.
Stay tuned to Political Spectrum. Political Spectrum. All sides matter at the round table. Political Spectrum. Exclusive to Spectrum Television.
Allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding you, lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
As of government, Secretary General, delegates.
This was the Lagos Nigerian for SpectrumTv to recover for the lapses taken into account.
As of government, Secretary General, delegates.
This was the Lagos Nigerian for SpectrumTv to recover for the lapses taken into account.
A very good morning to you and welcome to your morning news brief on Spectrum, live from Uyo. My name is Mary Joseph. Our first report this morning is that President Bola Tinubu on Tuesday returned to Abuja after attending the 28th United Nations Climate Change Conference, which took place in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, UAE. Apart from participating in the conference, the president had bilateral talks with King Charles of England, the president of UAE, and leaders of several countries and multilateral partners to concretize engagement. President Tinubu also witnessed the signing of an accelerated performance agreement between Nigeria and Germany to improve Nigeria's electricity supply and hosted a high-level meeting with stakeholders and investors on the Nigerian carbon market and the electric buses rollout program on the margins of the COP28 climate summit. Meanwhile, the Minister of Communications, Innovations and Digital Economy, Bosun Tijani, has blamed drop calls and poor communications networks in the country on vandalism. Tijani, who spoke during a televised interview, also said he is working on declaring telecoms infrastructure as critical national assets to prevent vandalism. The minister added that the $2 billion is needed to lay fiber optics cable across Nigeria for optimal performance. From the Green Chambers, the House of Representatives Committee on Public Petitions has issued the warrant of arrest on the Central Bank Governor Olayemi Cardoso, the Accountant General of the Federation Oluwatoyin Medin, and 17 others for refusing to appear before it to answer questions on the operations. This follows the adoption of a motion by Rep. Fred Agbedi by Elsa PDP at the committee's hearing on Tuesday. Moving the motion, Agbedi said that the arrest warrant had become inevitable following the attitude of the invitees. On the foreign scene, the U.S. Department of State has said that it will impose visa restrictions on Israeli settlers involved in undermining peace, security and stability in the occupied West Bank. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken announced that the move one day after the State Department said that Israel has not taken sufficient steps to address counter attacks that have driven many Palestinians off their land. President Joe Biden and other senior U.S. officials have warned repeatedly that Israel must act to stop violence by Israeli settlers against Palestinians in the West Bank, which has increased since the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. And in sports, Declan Rice's last grabs held a snatch victory for Arsenal in a 7-goal thriller at Luton to move them 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League. It was the conclusion to a compelling encounter in which the hosts twice fought back and threatened to win when Elijah Adebayo and Ross Berkeley scored in the 8-minute period after the break, with Arsenal goalkeeper David Raya culpable for both goals. We'll have details of this and many more in our news at 12. My name is Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rise and Shine, where we have Francis and Oyai on standby. Do have a wonderful morning.
Government. Secretary General, delegates.
Disasters being labeled Nigeria for SpectrumTv to recover 40 lapses in counting.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people. But there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Of course, glad to welcome you back. It's Rise and Shine, still coming to you live on Spectrum Television. Just in case you've missed out on the content we brought you so far this morning, you can connect us on social media, spectrumtvlive.ng, to be part of the conversation. Of course, to catch up on all the things that you must have missed out on. The plethora of stories we've talked about this morning, including the Kaduna bombing incident. Of course, the VP's residents are still generating a lot of controversy. And of course, the issue of promotion examinations by civil servant and the IBPIS concerns. All of this we've talked about and a lot more still coming your way. But right now, we'll be taking you to Delhi Spotlight, where we'll take you around the front pages of the national dailies. Of course, on Delhi Spotlight, we're starting off with the front page of the Dalit Trust. On the front page of Dalit Trust, the very first kicker there says the Kaduna massacre, Northern leaders orders demand compensation. Of course, residents narrates ordeals, Tinubu orders probe. The story is on page 4 of the Dalit Trust newspaper. Still on the front of Dalit Trust, we see 2024 Tinubu Shetima's trips, meals to gob 10 billion naira. As villas, animals get 201 million naira. Wow. Interesting twist there. Still on the front page of Dalit Trust, court orders execution of ex-soldier for killing Yoruba Islamic cleric. Stories on page 21. COP 28, Saeed Tinubu stewards, cooks among Nigerian delegation. The stories on page 6, and those are the major stories you find on the front page of Daily Trust. Of course, there's a picture story of the incident in Kaduna State.
Moving on from that particular story, we take a swipe at Daily Times. The Daily Times alleged blasphemy, tension as Northern Christian women mobilized for huge protest over member Rhoda Jatto being tried in Sharia court, detained since May 2022. The late Deborah's issue resurfaces, Khan speaks. FBN Holdings hits 960 billion naira as stock markets gains 0.43%. We also see here Army profusely apologizes over killing of Kaduna Maulud celebrants. K-Call demands probe of CMD FMC Abeokuta, writes head of service. Reps committee harps on building local oil gas capacity. Senate angry with NPA MD over allegedly missing $1.62 billion. Orders him to appear within 48 hours. Auditor General's report against sports boss Key. Frowns at his repeated shunned invitations. Customs to refund 62.2 billion naira. EFCC proposes almost double its 2023 budget appropriation for 2024. That's what we have on the front page of Daily Times.
And of course, that takes us to the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. On the front page of the Vanguard, we see the kicker, the 2024 budget. Tinubu Shetima aids to spend 15.961 billion naira on trips. Stories on page 5. Kaduna airstrike. Defense headquarters apologizes and says terrorists were killed in Ligama. The stories on page 28. Tinubu returns from COP28 summit in Dubai. 13 hours of story. Federal government won't weaponize religion, ethnicity. Secretary to the government of the Federation tells Sultan Khan. The stories on page 13. Federal government's deficit spending rises 11% to 7.88 trillion naira. Stories on page 19. Those are the major stories you find on the front page of the Vanguard this morning.
Next up will be the Nigerian Tribune. Big story there. Survivors recount details of Kaduna tragic drone attack. Tinubu, ACF, NEF, JNI call for probe. Lakwaja visit village, regrets incident. How unwanted tragedy occurred. DHQ, 85 killed, 66 injured, says NEMA, page 4. We also see here, I lost 34 relatives. I know of a man who lost all his 12 children, including his wife. We were picking body parts and putting them in bako bags. Very, very sad incident in Kaduna State. Our hearts are really heavy. We also see the fact that customs seized 9 trailer loads of rice, others in Ogun. Page 16. Supreme Court finds Ozehome 40 million naira, declines application to sack Uzodinma. Page 8. Air Force puts up presidential aircraft for sale. Page 5. Makinde presents 432.2 billion naira budget, prioritizes education and health. Page 13. Mba presents 521 billion naira budget. Education gets 33%. Page 20. Beyond just giving allocations, we hope that implementation and allocation will be the same thing put on paper. Renewed hope agenda, my priority in police affairs ministry. Details there by Suleiman Ibrahim, page 13. And that's all we have on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
Well, that takes us to our next paper this morning. That would be the front page of the Nation newspaper. The kicker that says Army explains accidental drone attack on villagers, defense headquarters. Intelligence showed terrorist movement. Family lost 34 people. NEMA, 85 people killed, 66 injured. Tinubu sympathizes, orders probe of incident. Of course, that story is on page number 12 on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Of course, we see CBN blames cash crunch on uneven flow, huge withdrawal. Nigeria. The story is on page 25. Still on the front page of the Nation, Jaqua syndrome, Nigerian kills wife in UK over bills. The story is on page 13. Still on the front page of the Nation this morning, before we take leave of it, we see education gets 20.08% of Makinde's 434 billion naira budget. Page 3 has that story. Those are the major stories you find on the front page of the Nation this morning.
We'll take our very last paper this morning, and that will be the Punch newspaper, last paper for this morning. Kaduna village bombing. Death toll hits 120. Villagers allege military bombed twice. One family loses 32 members. Culprits being punished. Survivors, ACF, JNI tell military. Army chief begs victims, says soldiers mistook villagers for bandits. Tinubu, Atiku, more, and of course very sad picture stories there of children and people being affected at that particular sad incident. Auction, presidential aircraft bidders get December 24th deadline. The presidential aircraft is on has been put up for sale. Federal government seeks 35 billion naira to revive Ajaokuta Steel. Page 20. Power, Finance Ministries get 618 billion naira loan. CSOs kick. Page 19. Cabal running Akeredolu's government stealing phones, says PDP. Truck crushes woman amid Lagos police Okada riders clash. Page 4. Very sad story. Over 9,000 civil servants fail promotional examination. Page 12 is where you can find details. Some of the stories are things that we have in-depthly looked into this morning on Rise and Shine, and we'd like for you to take advantage of all of that and get a full scoop of the details. But that's the much that we have on the front pages of our national dailies this morning. We are going to take a quick break now, and when we return, we'll be joined by our guest to look at some issues of national relevance and also very important conversations around the Akwa Ibom State government. So stay with us.
Christmas season is here again. Are you aware that making your business or products visible on a television space gives your brand a wider visibility and patronage? In the spirit of the season, Spectrum Television is offering a whopping 25% discount on all the services. Advertise your products and services while this offer lasts from 1st December 2023 to January 31st, 2024. We are a television with a passion to take your business and services on a satisfactory lane. You do not want to miss this opportunity. For more inquiries, visit our city office at number 2 Taft Plaza Close off Akaitinen Road, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, or call the following numbers on your screen. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon. For premium broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news around the world, watch Spectrum TV on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733. Visit our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Every day marks a day of significance.
That in view of the apology tendered by this former minister who had earlier been cleared by this August Assembly,
as we face critical issues, developments and events which shape our social and political landscape here in Nigeria and beyond. Political Spectrum is a program specially designed to help make sense of all the moving parts of developments and occurrences in our nation's polity and political economy.
There is nothing wrong with Nigeria, but there's everything wrong.
The educational history of public figures holds significance beyond mere biographical details.
From executive, legislative and judicial developments at national and subnational levels to international diplomacy and relations.
Join us for exclusive interviews with key political figures, expert opinions, analysts, thought-provoking conversations for and against, shedding light on the major issues that matter. We will always keep you updated on the most factual, smartest and unbiased reportage.
Stay tuned to Political Spectrum. Political Spectrum. All sides matter at the round table. Political Spectrum. Exclusive to Spectrum Television.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
A program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Welcome back and thanks for still staying tuned. This is Rise and Shine and we're beaming live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Of course, we bring to you conversations around topical issues happening around the nation, Africa, and international matters of concern that directly impact our nation. This morning, of course, we're being joined by our guest this morning, Mr. Benjamin Benson, who himself is the person in charge of retired school teachers in Akwa Ibom State, survivors of retired school teachers in Akwa Ibom State. For so long, we've been having conversations around the backlog of monies being owed to them. But since Governor Pastor Moino came on board and made promises during his campaign, we've seen him through 2 tranches keep up with the promise of delivering every now and then tokens of monies to be able to pay up this owed monies to retired school teachers and gratuities owed to retired civil servants in Akwa Ibom State. So, of course, today we are here to have a follow-up conversations to find out these promises made by the governor and these declarations of monies released. Is it really true? Are members of these organizations actually getting their monies? But before we get to the stomach of that conversation, we're going to take some social media reactions that we've had on the conversations that we brought to you earlier on Rise and Shine. But first of all, good morning, Mr. Benjamin Benson.
Good morning, Oyai. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
So we'll just take some reactions from our social media pages. These are WhatsApp responses to some of the issues that we raised regarding the 15 billion naira set aside by, intention by the FCT minister. Now, Barrister Bassi says we deserve the leaders we get. If the common citizens themselves, who are bearing the brunt of the failed state called Nigeria, with no government funds at their disposal to embezzle, are defending the very same people who are ruining and shutting down the country, don't you think we deserve what we are getting? A big question there by Barrister Bassi. Barrister Bassi joined us from Uyo, I presume. Yes, that was a response from Uyo here from Barrister Bassi. Serious question. Barrister Bassi is saying that Nigerians are deserving of the, the kind of leadership we are getting. After all, we are not proactive. We don't have the money to embezzle, yet we are defending those who are embezzling taxpayers' money. This is from Bakare from Abuja. It says you are talking about the ones published. What of the issues that you cannot be told? So I'll read it directly the way he said. He said that's the one they'll publish. The one they can't tell you is worse. So he says we are having these conversations around the published wastefulness of Nigerian leadership and Nigerian government. What of the waste that is going on and not published in mainstream media? Big question there. Thank you very much, Bakare from Abuja. Thank you so much, Barrister Bassi from Uyo, for sending us your WhatsApp responses to the issues at hand this morning. We go forward to our conversation with Mr. Benjamin Benson. Governor Pastor Moino promised that under his leadership, the question of owed monies to retired primary school teachers, gratuities owed to retirees will be paid. These monies have been owed as backdated all the way back to as far back as 2009, and some were paid under the leadership of Godswill Akpabio when he was governor of Akwa Ibom State. It looks like the biggest burden of owing was in the Udom Emmanuel administration. It's like he did worse with regards to payment. But Governor Pastor Moino has released 2 tranches. I think the first one he released was about 1 billion naira. Yes, he released 1 billion naira at first. And I think a couple of weeks ago, he released another tranche of about 1.5 billion, if I get that right. So far, so good. 2.5 billion naira has been released to pay gratuities and, some monies owed to retired primary school teachers. These monies that have been declared by the state government to have been paid. So far, so good. Let's start from saying, is it true? Has the governor actually released these funds?
Yes, he has. And I want to commend the governor because at the point it looked as if this was not going to be possible, especially under the last administration. It was it wasn't given a priority in the 8 years of the last administration. So even when Pastor Mobasieno was campaigning, he said he will do it after a month in office. And we thought he was just one of those political jackons. But what breaks my heart is that he never waited for people to protest. He just did it out of his free will, so to speak. So that's the most important thing for me, that he kept to his campaign promises, unlike other politicians who don't remember what they promised during the campaigns. So it is actually true that he's releasing these monies in batches, and this is actually the 3rd batch. Yes, this is actually the 3rd batch.
So another question, now that we have ascertained that Governor Pastor Moino is not carrying on with media sensationalism with regards to what exactly he's doing. 3 tranches since coming into office May 29, money is being paid to these sect of people. What are the modalities for payment? Because one issue is the governor releasing money. Now, the next question is this money going down to the people that it must be paid to? When you have a backlog of people that have been owed, say, since 2009, 2010, all of those years, what are the modalities? What kind of structure is the civil service in Akwa Ibom State or the pension board using to pay this money?
Well, naturally, since this money is released in tranches, batches, so to speak, we expect that the paying desk, that's the paying office, SUBEB, should start from the backlog down the years as applied. We say like from 2000, you pay 21, 22, 23, then to the current years. But at times we get to find out that people are omitted in the payment process. There are 2 reasons I will bring out for that. One is favoritism, the issue of favoritism, and the other one might be some persons were not captured. It wasn't their fault during the verifications. It wasn't their fault because
that's not the fault of SUBEB now.
No, not the fault of these persons, these beneficiaries, who were supposed to have been paid far back, but they were not captured during the verification in 2021 because those who conducted the verification, if you follow that verification, you knew that there was so many people coming for the verification. Meanwhile, we had the staffs working with SUBEB were not enough. So they may have omitted some of these names. So you need to go back and do revalidation of your status so that you can be captured. But people were omitted for that reason I've just mentioned, and for the reason of some people found their way to jump the queue. So those were challenges, and when we in our last letter to His Excellency, which was, of course, the letter was copied to the Honorable Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs and the Accountant General and the Chairman of SUBEB, Right Honorable Anyete Tuku. So that was the issue we addressed in a meeting with the Chairman of SUBEB. on Monday and even yesterday, because we had to bring up these names and send them back to SUBEP so that they don't jump anybody. Nobody is jumped to favor anyone. So you must, if you are saying that you must clear backlog, one person is too many to be left behind. So you start from the like the list I presented to him yesterday. It had people in 2000. 2003, 2004, and continuously like that. So we want those people to be cleared along, so that when next time we are talking about backlog, we will not still go back to 2000. Yes, yes. So it is in the interest of government also that they do, they pay those ones. And the chairman gave us his word that it was a mistake, it was an error, that they are going to correct it by starting from that those years. Yes.
It's very important if we can get the achievements of Governor Pastor Moino with paying up this backlog very right. So just like Benjamin Benson is saying this morning, start from the oldest years.
Yes.
It starts all the way from 2000.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So from the year 2000, it should be paid up,
so
that we know that we can say that Governor Pastor Moino has paid from 2000 to 2009, 2010.
Yes, yeah.
So that if he's not, because another question I'm about to ask you is, do you think that Governor Pastor Moino is going to be able to take care of the entirety of the backlog that he came to?
Yes, yes, it is possible. If the payment, if the releases is consistent, yes, it is possible. If you do your calculation, like we had like 33. Okay, if you look at the whole sum owed these retired primary school teachers and their next of kin, it's about 38 billion. Yes. So if you, for instance, if you keep every month after month, you keep releasing, say, 2 billion, because that's what we want him to do. It is possible that in the next, say, the next 3-4 years,
yes,
he will do away with issue of backlog. Maybe people will just retire and receive their gratuities in less than 2-3 months.
So you're saying that with the system that the governor has adopted,
yes,
we could say he's doing a bi-monthly release.
Yes.
So about every other 2 months, we see Governor Pastor Moino release, because he has released 3 tranches.
Yes.
So if it's consistent with this,
yes,
38 billion naira will be...
He must have paid it at the end of 3-4 years. Yes, it is possible. And he has to be consistent. That is why we said, even though we understand the challenges in government also, but we also say that since there was this abandonment over the years, something intentionally should be done. Like he released more money. Of which Governor Pastor Moino is actually very, very intentional. Yes, I think so. I have seen what he's doing, he's trying to do. I think if he's, instead of releasing 500 million, should be like 2 billion. Every other month, he takes that off. And the process should be open, so that the paying office, the government itself will be credible. The process should be open, because if you go to the civil service sector now, they publish the names, they paste it, the names of beneficiaries, those paid, they paste it. So we also want SUBEP to be pasting names of people that are paid, so that if somebody comes and maybe he checks off the list, he will know where they stop, and he will be able to know that in the next 1 month or by the next batch that will be paid. That will give him some kind of faith in the system. Okay, so is SUBEP and the civil service, are they working separately on this payment? Because it looks like the civil service is doing pay and pay stop names, but SUBEP is not doing the same. Are we not supposed to see some form of synergy to make sure, just like you said earlier, they are skipping some years and some persons within 1 year? Yes. Don't you think that if we have SUBEP and the civil service working unanimously, then we'll be able to cover more ground? Why is it that they seem to be working separately on this particular mission? Well, I think there are different departments. The monies that are supposed to come to the primary school teachers comes from a different account, maybe from the local government account. So, and maybe I also look at the fact that the civil service itself did not have so much of this backlog. they didn't have so much of the backlog. At least by the time Governor Fabio was leaving in 2015, he had paid up to that 2015 too. So the backlog really accrued during the years of the last 8 years. Yes. So that was when they had this gap. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been a gap. So for SUBEP to handle their issues separately, that will also help them also separate the responsibilities. So I think it's good for them too.
Okay. So another big question will be now, what is the response coming out from the people that have been owed this money over the years? But remember that in the last 2 years of the John Emmanuel administration, every now and then it was protest by the retired school teachers. It was a protest by retirees asking that the government pays them monies that they've been owed. Now that we have seen a governor who has released money in 3 tranches, at least you would say even if it's not the entirety of the person's gratuity that has been paid to them in one payment, you say at least half or a percentage has been paid. You know that maybe by the next time the governor releases this money, another percentage will be paid, and before long your gratuity has been handled. How would you say that the community of retired school teachers, primary school teachers, retirees at all levels, how would you say that they're currently doing? You're in charge of their affairs. You really took out their burden on the shoulder. So how are they doing?
Yes, there's excitement. Everyone is happy. Money saves life. So a lot of people have recovered health-wise, business-wise. People that have received their monies, they are into business. Some of them, and in fact, there was a woman that had cancer. So God helped her. She received the money at the point that she was supposed to go for Medicare, and that really helped. Even though we know that if that money was paid like 10 years, 8 years back, it would have added so much value. But all the same, people are happy. Families are united and they are happy.
Speaking of the value of the money at this time, these monies are monies that were owed, to these persons 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. The value of 1 million naira worth of your gratuity at that time is nothing compared to what it is as of now. Yeah.
If maybe by 10 years ago, say 1 million could have built a house, a small bungalow. But now it can barely mold cement for a 3-bedroom flat. So the value of that money has really gone down. But it is very important that they get the money, whatever it is, they get their money. Because it was their entitlements in the first place. It is good. Life goes on, and they are happy. Families are.
So I think that brings back a big question to the state government and even the federal government at this time. When you owe people their monies and it transcends years, the value of the money keeps depreciating. It's no longer worthy of the work that they did at the time. What a retired school teacher might have used their 1 million, 2 million naira as whole sum of gratuity to do back in the years, they might not be able to achieve it now, and it still boils down to them being cheated of the value of their monies. But it's good to hear that Governor Pastor Moino is keeping to his promises with regards to making sure that these monies owed have been paid, and he's taken we see some form of intentionality. We know that we cannot take out 38 billion naira in all that the state is worth in 2 months and pay only to these retired school teachers and retirees. But seeing the consistency, one would only hope that we continue to see him keep up to this. In terms of appreciation now from the end of these persons, because we literally sat through an 8-year administration where we barely saw these monies being paid. How appreciative has these organizations been towards Governor Pastor Moino?
Well, when he started with the first tranche, we wrote to thank him. We wrote back to thank him, and we asked him that we prayed for him anyway. And I know in my heart that with this kind of leader, if he has the kind of money that the last administration had, like the Paris Club Debris Fund, or the derivation funds, if that kind of money, that volume of money comes in, all the refunds on federal government projects by past governors, if those kind of money come in, we won't wait for 2 years. I know he will not wait for 2 years. Of course, he has shown us the part of how kind he is. He may end up clearing this money as soon as those kind of monies come. So we are praying for him that he succeeds under his government, that he experiences the kind of monies the last administration received in this state. And I know that he's a good man. He will do it.
Oh, well, of course, this morning we've been talking to Benjamin Benson, who himself is the coordinator of retired primary school teachers in Akwa Ibom State, people who, lend a voice to the plight of retirees. Some of them are children and survivors of, parents who served the system for 35 years, but their monies had been held back for several administrations. In the last 8 years of the former administration of Mutomi Manuel, they were massively owed. And when Governor Pastor Omoino came into office during his campaigns, he had promised that he was going to pay particular attention and make sure that this monies owed have been paid. So far, so good, to the tune of almost running into about 4 billion naira now, tranches of 1 billion being paid, another 1.5 billion being paid in 3 tranches. The governor has actually released funds for the payment of these gratuities being owed. And today, Mr. Benjamin Benson, who is like the spokesperson for retired primary school teachers and gratuity and retirees in Akwa Ibom State, has come to say a big thank you to Governor Pastor Omoino. They are saying they have seen what the governor has done in the past 6 months of his administration as governor of the retired primary school teachers. They have seen what he is doing, and they have come back to say a very big thank you. Just like Benjamin Benson said this morning, they do hope that he sees the kind of financial abundance that the past administration saw, knowing inadvertently that if he does, it means that the backlog will be cleared within his 4-year administration. I don't know if you have any final words just before we draw a close to this session.
It's okay. My final words is to the governor, His Excellency Pastor Omoino. I just want to urge him to just keep the consistency in the releases, and our prayers is always with him, that God will lead him rightly. And to those still waiting, we have to exercise a little bit of patience. It will get to everybody, definitely.
All right. That's the much that we can take today. Thank you very much, Benjamin Benson, for coming. Just like we always say, if you beat the government with one hand, make sure you call them back with the other hand when they're doing good. Spectrum Television has been a very strong voice with the retired primary school teachers, always lending a voice and calling on the state government to do right by them. Now that we see that the state government is doing right by them, it's also our responsibility to come back and tell, the world, tell Nigerians that, hey, Akwa Ibom state government is beginning to deliver on those things that we usually talked about. That is very, very important. It's an all-inclusive, platform. But this is the much we can take on the Wednesday edition of Rise and Shine. It's been a long journey. We have a lot of concerns about things happening in the country. Thank you to those who reached out to us and shared their concerns and contribution on the show. Thank you to Basi, who reached us from Uyo via WhatsApp. Thank you, Bakare, who reached us via WhatsApp all the way from Abuja, giving their thoughts around the issues happening at the FCT near some weekend, 15 billion naira for the residence of the vice president, several other issues. You need to catch up on all that we've talked about on Rise and Shine this morning. Do that by following us across all our social media platforms, all of which you can find at spectrumtvlive.ng. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you would always find all of our content also hosted, just so that you can be a part of the growing community. Like, share, comment. Until we return to your screens again tomorrow with a more robust episode of Rise and Shine, stay safe, stay well, and may God keep us as Nigerians. Until tomorrow, my name remains Uyai Anyekan. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.